Well, hello everybody, my name is Roger, and welcome to my channel, Rogers Reads. So today I'm doing another book review, and the name of the book is entitled The Far Field by Madhuri Vijay. And now this was actually a Book of the Month Club selection for last month. And the synopsis sounded fascinating, so I thought I'd pick it up, and I was not disappointed. So The Far Field follows a young, fairly well-off Indian woman from Bangalore named Shalini, whose mother had recently passed away. And Shalini is having a rather difficult time coming to terms with her mother's death. Then she recalls a Kashmiri clothes salesman named Bashir Ahmed, who had visited her childhood home and with who her misanthropic mother struck up a friendship, which in and of itself was very unusual, given that her mother was hot-tempered, sarcastic, critical, brutal, and mocking of pretty much everyone around her. She was definitely not a pleasant person to be around, though I have to admit that many of her comments were hysterical, laugh-out-loud funny. But still, Shalini was quite loyal to her mother. And regardless of her mother's disposition, Bashir would come to their house every couple of months and spend the entire afternoon with Shalini and her mother. And it was during those times that her mother appeared almost happy and joyful, which was not something that Shalini usually saw with her mom. So Bashir's visits came to a sudden halt 2 decades earlier, and it was shortly after that when Shalini's mother's mental health started to go downhill. So Shalini decides to head out to Kashmir to find her mother's long-lost friend, convinced that finding the man and telling him about her mother's death will somehow bring her closure with her mom's passing. Now, it is a risky journey on her part, given that Kashmir is racked by war and unrest, and that's precisely what Shalini discovers in the remote Himalayan village where she finds herself. So there, she's immediately integrated into the lives of a generous family who not only offer her shelter and friendship, but also protection. But the more her relationship with the local villagers and the family deepens, the more she unknowingly threatens their safety, especially when uncertainty and old hatreds and resentments begin to surface. So, on to what I liked about this book. First off, I loved how real this story felt to me. You know, I often forgot that I was reading fiction, as it felt like I was hearing a memoir from the right from the mouth of someone who had just gone through a challenging time in her life. The attention to detail and the rich descriptions of place in the story made me feel that I were there in the village right along with our protagonist. I also enjoyed the manner in which the story slowly unfolded, in which the author switches using alternating timelines from Shalini's childhood, where we learn about her and her parents, to the present day, where we are transported to her time in Kashmir. So we're allowed to see how Shalini's past shaped her into the person she is today, for both good and ill. I thought that she was quite a fascinating character, and I enjoyed getting to know her as the story evolved. I also enjoyed seeing the evolution of her complicated and often heart-wrenching relationship with her mother, and how that relationship and Shalini herself changed after Bashir's final visit. I also love the many themes that ran throughout the story. There's the loss of one's parent, the loss of one's spouse. There's grief, family, privilege, depression, reconnecting with those we've lost, trust, empathy, and politics. Though it is a relatively slow-moving, character-driven story, there is so much going on throughout Shalini's narrative, including numerous twists and turns, which managed to hold my attention throughout the book. Now, along with the evocative sense of place, I adored the secondary characters, all of whom really came to life for me in this story. They were so vivid, so real, even raw at times. Through the rich storytelling, we were able to see and understand the motivations of these characters, with each and every one of them adding an essential element to the story. Now, I love the manner in which the culture, the political strife, and the unrest of the region were explained to us through the opinions of the locals, also providing us a first-hand account of their challenging everyday lives. I liked how dark and frequently grim situations in the story are lightened by realistic dialogue and genuineness of feeling on the part of the characters. Character development is undoubtedly among the Far-Field's list of shining accomplishments. So, on to what I didn't like about the novel. For the most part, I found very little to dislike. There are certain aspects of Shalini's character, however, that I didn't particularly care for, such as her rudeness and self-centeredness, her sense of entitlement, as well as her immaturity. I felt that her excessive naivete was a bit over the top for a woman of her age, and I had a difficult time buying into it. Though she did mature in several ways by the end of the book, I felt that she didn't quite reach the level of maturity and empathy for the plight of others that she should have by the story's end. It's also worth mentioning that this is a character-driven story, so there isn't a lot of action going on in the beginning of the book. So as such, the story does take a while to get going. So, on to my final verdict. The Far Field is an extremely rich and moving coming-of-age story that deals with many loaded issues, including class prejudice, guilt, coming to terms with one's identity, forgiving ourselves, regret, taking a good hard look at the beliefs and choices, and learning to accept and live with the terrible decisions that we sometimes make in life. The author also manages to humanize and provide compassionate insight into the conflict between India and Pakistan that's plagued the area for so long, and in so doing manages to hit the reader right in the heart. Though unsettling at times, I felt that this book was an extraordinary story of a young woman's passage to self-discovery as she tries to make sense out of the chaos around her. Now, this was a subtle, blow-me-away kind of book on so many levels, and I'm still mulling it over many days later. And I ended up loving this hauntingly beautiful novel, and I do look forward to reading more by this author. So that's my review for The Far Field. As always, I thank you so much for watching. And if you liked this video, I'd really appreciate it if you click the like button, as that would really help me out. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and click the little bell icon. That way you'll get notified whenever I release new videos. So that is it for now. I will talk to you in the next video. Roger and out.